Good afternoon. My name is Dan Scripps, Chair of the Michigan Public Service Commission. I call this meeting of the Commission to order on December 18th, 2025 at 1:10 p.m. Madam Secretary, please.
Chair Scripps.
Present.
Commissioner Peretick.
Present.
Commissioner Myers.
Present.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Today's meeting is being held in person at the Commission's office at 7109 West Saginaw Highway in Lansing, Michigan. We are also hosting this meeting remotely using Microsoft Teams. Telephone relay service is available through the phone option. If you are participating via Microsoft Teams, you may also turn on the live captions by clicking on the More button at the top right of the Teams window, then clicking on Language and Speech from the drop-down menu, and finally clicking on Turn on Live Captions. As indicated in the notice for today's meeting, if we lose the remote connection, the Commission will not recess. The meeting will, however, be recorded and available for future reference on the Commission's website. In addition, the Commissioners can receive comments via lara-mpsc-commissioners@michigan.gov. Again, that's LARA-MPSC-commissioners@michigan.gov. And for reference, this email is also included in today's meeting notice. We will have an opportunity for the public to make comments as provided in the agenda. A few notes about this. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and 1 per person. If you would like to make verbal comments, you must do so in person or remotely through Microsoft Teams or by calling into the meeting by phone. For individuals attending in person and who want to make a verbal comment, please fill out a comment card. They are available at the front table near the podium. For individuals participating remotely by Microsoft Teams and who want to make a verbal comment, you may click on the raise hand button at any time to be queued up for comment. For individuals participating remotely by phone and who want to make a verbal comment, you may press *5 at any time to be queued up for comment. Public commenters on both Microsoft Teams and on the phone are added to the same speaker queue and will be called upon in the order they enter the speaker queue. So please do not lower your hand or press *5 again, or you'll be removed from the queue and lose your place in line. To minimize disruptions, attendees participating by Microsoft Teams or by phone will be muted until we reach the time for public comment. First order of business is approval of the agenda for today's meeting.
I move for the approval of the agenda for today's commission meeting.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? You'll now have a vote on the motion to approve today's agenda. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries by a unanimous vote. The agenda is approved. The next item of business on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the December 5, 2025 Commission meeting.
I move for the approval of the minutes from the December 5, 2025 commission meeting.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We'll now have a vote on the motion to approve the minutes from the December 5, 2025 Commission meeting. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries by a unanimous vote. The Commission meeting minutes of December 5, 2025 are approved. The next item of business on the agenda is the approval of the orders and minute actions on the consent agenda. And today the Commission is assisted by Staff Attorney Kelly Barber Dodge. I recognize Ms. Barber Dodge.
Good afternoon. Today's consent agenda consists of 3 communications matters, 3 electric matters, and 2 gas matters. The proposed orders and minute actions for these matters have been thoroughly vetted by the Commission's technical and legal staff and are ready for your approval.
Thank you, Ms. Barber Dodge. I move for the approval of the orders and minute actions on the consent agenda.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the orders and the minute actions on the consent agenda. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The orders and minute actions on the consent agenda are approved. I recognize Ms. Barber Dodge.
Item 4A1 is case number U21959, which involves an application as amended filed by Bluebird Midwest LLC, doing business as Bluebird Fiber, for a permanent license to provide basic local exchange service in all the zone and exchange areas in which Michigan Bell Telephone Company, doing business as AT&T Michigan, Frontier North Incorporated, and Frontier Mid-States Incorporated, are the incumbent local exchange carriers and in all other incumbent local exchange carrier service territories throughout the state of Michigan. The order before you grants the permanent license.
Move for the approval of the order in case number U-21959.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We'll now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21959 is approved. I recognize Ms. Barber Dodge.
Item 4B1 is case numbers U15825 et al., which involve a matter on the Commission's own motion regarding the regulatory reviews, determinations, and/or approvals necessary for member-regulated cooperatives, municipally owned utilities and alternative electric suppliers to comply with Public Act 295 of 2008, as amended. The order before you directs Calpine Energy Solutions LLC and Direct Energy Business LLC to take additional steps towards compliance with the requirements of Public Act 295 of 2008, as amended, and finds that other electric providers required to do so have complied with the requirements of Public Act 295 of 2008, as amended, with one exception as described in the order.
Thank you, Ms. Barbara Dodge. I move for the approval of the order in case numbers U-15825 et al.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case numbers U-15825 et al. is approved. I recognize Ms. Barbara Dodge.
Item 4B2 is case number U18350, which involves an application filed by Alpena Power Company requesting ex parte approval of its voluntary green pricing program. The order before you approves the application.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-18350.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-18350 is approved. I recognize Ms. Barbara Dodge.
Item 4B3 is case number U21173, which involves a letter filed by Northern States Power Company seeking approval of its unchanged voluntary green pricing program. The order before you approves the filing.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21173.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We'll now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21173 is approved. I recognize Ms. Barbara Dodge.
Item 4B4 is case number U21637, which involves a matter on the Commission's own motion to investigate opportunities for improving the process by which the Commission reviews rate case applications. The order before you provides further guidance on demand response and communication issues.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21637.
I second the motion.
And just before we vote on this, a couple notes on this. This came out of a directive from the legislature as part of the 2023 energy reforms that we look at opportunities to improve our rate case processes. And the order in front of us does three important things. First, and probably most notably, it increases transparency around what utilities are requesting in their rate cases and directs the utility companies to share that information directly with their customers in the form of a bill insert, directly on the bill itself, and then in addition, a dedicated website provides some needed details around what the request entails and how it would impact the customer's pocketbooks. Second, we take efforts to streamline the process that we currently consider demand response programs and that moves from what is currently a cumbersome three-stage process into one where we look at the potential of demand response as part of the utility integrated resource plans, and then ultimately look at a lot of the costs elements as part of traditional rate cases. And so I think this will help in streamlining that process. And then finally, without taking a position on contested cases in rate cases, we note that any such effort to request a contested case would also require the utility moving to waive the current 10-month deadline. Only the utility under Michigan law can waive that deadline. That's as written in statute. And the 10-month deadline simply does not provide sufficient time for the consideration of any contested settlement in a rate case proceeding were one to ever be submitted in that. So I think some important steps forward in response to the direction that we got from the legislature, and I'm pleased to have the order in front of us. Is there any additional discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carried by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21637 is approved. I recognize Ms. Barbara Dodge.
Item 4B5 is case number U21813, which involves Upper Michigan Energy Resources Corporation's application for approval of an amended renewable energy plan to comply with Public Act 235 of 2023. The case also involves an appeal of the administrative law judge's decision to deny the company's motion to strike certain portions of Tilden Mining Company's LC's reply brief. The order before you rejects Upper Michigan Energy Resources Corporation's amended renewable energy plan for the reasons described in the order and directs the company to refile a new amended renewable energy plan by October 15, 2026. The order also denies Upper Michigan Energy Resources Corporation's appeal of the decision on its motion to strike.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer Dodge. I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21813.
I second the motion.
And just a few words on this as well. The same clean energy laws in 2023 also explicitly recognize the uniqueness of the energy system in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, including the unique relationship between Upper Michigan Energy Resource Corporation and its largest customer, the Tilden Mining Company. Ultimately, we found that the amended renewable energy plan proposed by UMERC, as it's more commonly known, went well beyond the requirements of a renewable energy plan and really was an effort to consider things that were more appropriately addressed in a clean energy plan. And so on that basis, we ultimately rejected the proposed renewable energy plan and, as noted, directed the company to refile not later than October 15th, 2026, in concert with their clean energy plan and integrated resource plan, though we did provide the opportunity for the company to file earlier than that a standalone amended renewable energy plan, focusing on the elements to be included in a renewable energy plan as opposed to a clean energy plan earlier if they so choose. We're also aware that these conversations are also taking place on a parallel track in the legislature around a broader resolution to some of the issues that we flagged in our report on the status of the Upper Peninsula's energy landscape that was issued last year. And we continue to be active participants in those discussions and look forward to an agreement among the many parties involved that ultimately serves the needs of those who call our UP home. With that, is there any additional discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21813 is approved. I recognize Ms. Barbara Dodge.
Item 4B6 is case numbers U-21867 et al., which involve matters on the Commission's own motion to commence a proceeding pursuant to Section 6T, subsection 1 of Public Act 231 of 2023. Staff member Carson Zaner will describe this order.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today, I'm presenting the Michigan Public Service Commission's order in case number U-21867 et al., which is being issued to implement the provisions of Public Acts 231 and 235 of 2023. These laws were enacted to modernize Michigan's energy planning framework, accelerate the transition to clean energy, and it included provisions for labor standards, environmental justice, and affordability. Procedurally, this order builds upon prior Commission actions, including the establishment of the IRP requirements and Michigan Integrated Resource Planning parameters in 2017 and all updates thereafter. In 2024, the Commission initiated case number U-21570 to update the IRP requirements, MIRPP, create clean energy plan requirements, and ordered studies on energy waste reduction, demand response, and electrification. Staff held several sessions to vet updates to these documents, and the Commission held 2 public hearings and received over 200 comments from utilities, advocacy groups, tribal nations, and individuals. Among the most important and detailed updates to these requirements are as follows: utility outreach to communities and tribal governments, a sensitivity that looks at the probabilities of large loads increases to address the potential build-out of data centers, the inclusion of an environmental justice analysis using the MIEJ screen tool, which includes identifying vulnerable communities and additional screening for BIPOC and low-income populations, requirements for utilities to assess affordability impacts, including energy burden thresholds and provide mitigation strategies if burdens exceed 6%, emphasis on labor standards, requiring utilities to describe how procurement will meet prevailing wage, apprenticeship, and collective bargaining requirements. Adoption of energy storage targets, requiring utilities to meet their proportional share of the statewide 2,500 megawatt target by 2029, with detailed modeling and procurement plans. Clean energy plan requirements for rate-regulated utilities, co-ops, AESs, and municipalities along with a reporting template for those organizations to use in their filings. And lastly, new sensitivities that address emerging technologies and potential siting and supply chain issues for renewables mitigated by out-of-state resources. We extend our sincere gratitude to all that participated in shaping this order. Thank you to all utilities, tribal nations, labor organizations, and advocacy groups, as well as over 200 individuals who submitted comments and attended public hearings. Your contributions were invaluable in crafting a comprehensive and inclusive energy planning framework. In conclusion, Order U-21867 represents a forward-looking and detailed approach to electric resource planning in Michigan. It reflects our commitment to transparency, equity, and sustainability, and sets the foundation for a resilient and inclusive energy future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zahner. I move for the approval of the order in case numbers U-21867 et al.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Myers?
Yeah. The Michigan Integrated Resource Planning parameters outline how utilities look at Michigan's energy future. The assumptions and parameters we establish guide how utilities evaluate their future, which influence both the choices utilities propose and the outcomes experienced by customers and communities across the state. With this, I want to express my thanks to all that have been involved in the process. Your participation, not only in the public hearings, but also in written comments, were valuable and essential. Engagement is a foundational element of sound energy policy. An open and inclusive process strengthens our decision-making, builds trust, and leads to more durable and resilient outcomes. The discussion and input we received informed our work in meaningful ways and helped create robust dialogue, which the Commission based its decisions. I appreciate the time, effort, and thoughtfulness that interested parties brought to this process, and I want to thank you again for contributing to Michigan's energy planning and regulatory framework.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. Is there any additional discussion?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to just begin by expressing my thanks to our staff, especially our resource optimization and certification section that's led by Naomi Simpson. That includes Amelia Arnold, Marcy Champion, John DeKuman, Zach Heidemann, Megan Mix, and Karsten Zahner. Into our energy optimization section that was led by Karen Gould, that includes Brad Banks, Shannon Hartman, Tim Johnson, Joseph Reese, Katie Smith, Fazan Tawana, Dave Walker, and Elizabeth Yeager. And similar to Commissioner Myers' sentiments, I'd like to thank all the commenters who took the time to submit written comments to the docket and showed up to give comments at our public hearings in both Grand Rapids and in Auburn Hills. We have the opportunity to update these planning parameters that we use to guide the development of our utilities integrated resource plans every 4 years. So that means we get the opportunity to review the scenarios and sensitivities that drive the decisions for how much generation to build, which type of generation to build, and when that generation needs to be built. These final integrated resource plans are highly influential in what our energy landscape looks like in our state, and this order updates them to be consistent with how our state has changed in the last 4 years. One of the ways that we incorporated comments is by requiring scenarios with various levels of data center load growth. We heard this directly in our hearing at Grand Rapids from multiple commenters, and it was also written in comments in the docket. It's uncertain just how many very large loads like data centers will be built in Michigan, so we're requiring all investor-owned utilities to run a sensitivity for their integrated resource plan based on high, medium, and low load growth. And this will help us understand the impacts of these loads and if additional resources may need to be built to serve them if they don't bring their own generation or capacity. We're in a time of fast-paced change in our energy landscape, and these updated integrated resource planning parameters allow us to stay on top of these changes and ensure Michigan customers will have safe, reliable, and accessible energy at reasonable rates.
Thank you, Commissioner Peretick. We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote, and the order in case numbers U-21867 et al. Is approved. I recognize Ms. Barbara Dodge.
Item 4B7 is case number U-21909, which involves an application filed by DTE Electric Company requesting approval of its proposed financial incentive and disincentive mechanism. The order before you approves the contested settlement agreement.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21909.
I second the motion.
And just a few words on this one as well. We've got a lot on the agenda today, but the order in front of us reflects, as as was noted by Ms. Barbara Dodge, a contested settlement agreement, but ultimately the implementation of a financial incentive and disincentive framework that has been in the development over the last 3 years. And both this case and the next one will better link how utilities earn money with key metrics around how they perform in keeping the lights on. The incentives and disincentives, and which penalties, as anybody else would call them, are ultimately tied to whether utilities meet the goals that are contained in our service quality rules around reducing the average length of customer outages, the length of time it takes for utilities to restore power after storms, as well as in calmer weather conditions, the number of customers experiencing 4 or more outages each year, and improving the utility's worst performing circuits. Again, I think these are meaningful incentives, but also meaningful penalties to try and make sure that the utilities at every level of the organization are focused on the metrics that mean the most to their customers from a reliability perspective. And I'm pleased to have this order and the next one in front of us today. Is there any additional discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21909 is approved. I recognize Ms. Barbara Dodge.
Item 4B8 is case number U21911, which involves an application filed by Consumers Energy Company requesting approval of its proposed financial incentive disincentive mechanism. The order before you approves a settlement agreement resolving all issues in the case.
Move for the approval of the order in case number U-21911.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote, and the order in case number U-21911 is approved. Recognize Ms. Barbara Dodge.
Item 4B9 is case number U21988, which involves an application filed by Northern States Power Company for ex parte approval of revised depreciation rates. The order before you approves the application.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21988.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21988 is approved. I recognize Ms. Barbara Dodge.
Item 4B10 is case number U21990, which involves a request for approval of special contracts filed by DTE Electric Company. Staff member Mike Byrne will describe the order.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. On November 3rd, 2025, in case number U-21990, DTE Electric Company filed an application for approval of 2 special contracts with Green Chili Ventures LLC, a subsidiary of Oracle Corporation, which plans to build and operate a 1.383 gigawatt data center in Saline Township. Speak up. Your mic went off. Try a different microphone. Sorry about that. Utility customers are served pursuant to rates, terms, and conditions outlined in tariffs approved by the Public Service Commission. Special contracts between a utility and a single customer may be entered into so that a utility can provide service in a manner or at a rate not specifically covered by the utility's filed rate schedules, and are subject to approval by the Commission. In its application, DTE indicated that the proposed special contracts, which include both a power supply agreement and an energy storage agreement, will generate an affordability benefit to DTE Electric's other customers by spreading the company's fixed costs, generation, and distribution over a larger customer base, and are intended to provide additional protections for the company's other customers beyond the standard tariff provisions. Under the proposed power supply agreement, the customer would take service from DTE under the existing D11 rate, which is available to large load customers who take service at primary, subtransmission, or transmission voltage. Taking service under the D11 tariff ensures that the customer will contribute to fixed system costs in the same manner as other large customers. In addition, the power supply agreement provides for a minimum contract duration of 19 years, a minimum monthly billing demand of 80% of the contracted capacity, a termination payment where the customer would be responsible for at least 10 years of the identified minimum charges, credit and collateral requirements, including a parent guarantee, as well as a letter of credit as necessary based on the parent's credit rating to protect existing customers from potential stranded assets or other financial harm. Under the proposed energy storage agreement, the customer agrees to pay for 1.383 gigawatts of energy storage facilities over a 15-year period. The storage resources would be procured by DTE Electric through self-builds, build transfer agreements, and tolling agreements with third-party developers, and specific storage projects would be subject to review and approval by the Commission in future applications. The amount of battery storage to be installed equals the electricity demand of the data center customer to ensure that DTE will have enough resources on the grid to meet the added demand. The terms of the proposed contract include similar termination payment and credit and collateral requirements as the power supply agreement. And while the battery storage facilities would be paid for solely by the new customer, these facilities would provide benefits to the grid as a whole. In submitting its application to the Commission, DTE Electric requested ex parte consideration of the contracts. Special contracts with customers are often reviewed ex parte, as the contract only apply to a single customer. In order to review the contracts through the ex parte process, the Commission needs to find that the rates and cost of service to other customers will not be impacted and may grant approval if the Commission finds the contracts to be reasonable and in the public interest. While a number of organizations and individuals petitioned the Commission to have this matter converted to a contested case, the order before you today finds that consideration of the proposed special contracts on an ex parte basis does not result in an increase to the rates, rate schedules, or costs of service for any customers, and thus is allowable under the law, as upheld through precedential court rulings, and is in the public interest. In addition, the order grants conditional approval of the special contracts. Specific conditions require DTE to do the following: commit that the customer's obligations under Rate D11 and the special contracts will at least cover the costs to serve the customer, including generation, transmission, distribution, or other costs, and not be covered by other ratepayers, and file a letter with the Commission within 30 days indicating whether it accepts this condition. File within 90 days an application for approval of a generally applicable large load customer tariff for very large load customers such as data centers. File in its next rate case a cost allocation and rate design proposal that ensures that any future large load interconnection customers are paying the costs of interconnection, as well as a proposed administrative fee to be charged to potential additional data centers and other large loads to ensure the costs associated with any interconnection or other studies performed for these potential customers are not absorbed by existing customers. File an amended renewable energy plan with its next integrated resource plan and clean energy plan that includes a comparison of the resource requirements needed to comply with its renewable portfolio standard targets, both with and without Green Chili Ventures LLC's load and corresponding retail sales, an analysis of options for recovery of any incremental costs of renewable portfolio standard compliance, and an analysis of ways to recover the incremental costs of renewable portfolio standard compliance to ensure costs and benefits are appropriately distributed among rate classes. Include in its next IRP application and its initial CEP application a comparison of the resource requirements necessary to serve the utility's electric load with and without the addition of Green Chili Ventures LLC's load. Provide an updated analysis in its next capacity demonstration showing the impact of the data center's load on the utility's capacity requirements under direct loss of load methodology using the Midcontinent Independent System Operator, or MISO's, most recent indicative direct loss of load results. Provide a detailed analysis in its next energy waste reduction plan filing of the incremental costs necessary to meet the 2% EWR savings target, inclusive of Green Chili Ventures load, and an analysis of updated surcharges designed to ensure other customers are not affected by the incremental EWR program costs attributable to the data center. Update its emergency procedures so that in the event of an energy emergency that requires the utility to involuntarily shed electricity load, the utility will ensure that the data center's load is reduced or interrupted before interrupting service to other DTE Electric customers. And finally, file quarterly reports beginning December 31st, 2026, detailing 1, the customer's load profile for the previous quarter, 2, the amount of storage that is operational as of the end of that quarter, 3, the customer's total demand for the preceding 12 months compared to expected contract capacity and minimum billing demand, 4, any changes to the customer's credit rating that trigger a change to the credit and collateral terms, and 5, DTE Electric's assessment of the financial state of the customer. On an annual basis, in every report filed on December 31st, DTE shall also include any other information related to the realization of the projected affordability benefit. Before closing, I would like to extend my gratitude to the staff of the Michigan Public Service Commission for their efforts in processing this application and preparing work. The technical staff worked diligently to conduct a review and audit to inform the commission's consideration of this matter. Legal staff prepared a well-written and well-reasoned order. Our executive business section received, reviewed, and posted over 5,500 case comments to the eDocket system. And staff in the commission office helped us support commission deliberations and communications about this case, including holding a virtual public hearing and preparing an issue brief to promote awareness of the commission's decision. The commission and its staff have been entrusted through state law and are expected by the public we serve to ensure that the actions of this body are consistent with the public interest, and I commend this team for their professionalism and commitment to upholding that standard. Thank you.
Thank you for that excellent presentation, Mr. Byrne. I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21990.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? Excuse me. There's public comment as provided for in the agenda. Yep. There's public comment as provided for the agenda. It's the same place it is. I'm sorry, I'm not going to allow you to disrupt this meeting. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I do have some comments. I would first like to thank everybody who took the time to comment on this case, either by written comment in eDockets, by virtual comment in our public hearing on December 6th, or in person here in our hearing room in Lansing. We've heard your comments and understand your concerns. I would also like to give a sincere thanks to our staff who spent countless hours reviewing every detail of these contracts over the last 7 weeks. You all put in a huge amount of time and effort into reviewing both contracts, as was described by Mr. Byrne, in depth to help us determine whether they are in the interest of DTE's existing electric customers. The decision before us today is whether the two contracts, the primary supply agreement and the energy storage agreement, signed by DTE Electric and Green Chili Ventures, are reasonable and prudent. The Commission's jurisdiction is for electric supply, and our decision needs to be based on what is in our jurisdiction, not other important considerations that were raised by the public, like water usage, noise pollution, or the merits of AI generally. The contracts that the commissioners and our staff reviewed were the full, unredacted primary supply agreement and energy storage agreement. We were able to fully assess the implications and effects of connecting and supplying this 1.4 gigawatt load. We were able to review in detail the affordability model to assess how electric rates would be impacted as a result of this new customer. We were able to review the financial details of the credit and collateral requirements, including the amount of collateral, as well as situations when a letter of credit would be needed instead of a parent guarantee. We were able to evaluate the effects of a termination payment, of the 80% minimum billing demand, and the addition of 1.4 gigawatts of energy storage. This is our job as an energy regulator. It's our job to fully assess each and every case, every settlement agreement, every contract that's before us. Our staff are experts who have dedicated their careers to serving the public interest and protecting all Michiganders. We take our role seriously, and we understand the implications that our decisions have on Michigan's clean energy future and on people's pocketbooks. By law, the electric utilities in our state have an obligation to serve customers who want to take electric service in their territory. The power supply agreement and energy storage agreement are well-negotiated, solid contracts. They show a net financial benefit to DTE's other customers of approximately $300 million per year. That is a real cost savings at a time when affordability is so important. The customer, Green Chili Ventures, is paying for 100% of the costs to build 1.4 gigawatts of energy storage that will add capacity to DTE's system commensurate with the capacity of the data center. The termination payment outlined by the contract ensures that if the customer leaves early, ratepayers won't be left on the hook for costs accrued to serve the customer. And the contract doesn't take for granted that the customer will remain financially solvent. It requires upfront collateral. In fact, the collateral of the contracts before us far exceed the 50% standard set forth in the November 6th order approving Consumers Energy's large load tariff. However, the order before us is a conditional approval. Even in the event that all these safeguards don't work the way that we think they will, the order places that risk on DTE, not on ratepayers. This approval is contingent upon DTE Electric agreeing to bear all the risk of any costs incurred that are not recovered from Green Chili Ventures. This means that if the affordability analysis turns out to be overly optimistic for any reason, DTE bears the responsibility of any extra costs, and they cannot be recovered from other customers. That also means that if the collateral is insufficient to cover all costs incurred in the event of a default, DTE's other customers will not be on the hook to pay. That risk is borne by DTE and its shareholders. If DTE is not comfortable bearing the risk, they're welcome to refile their application as a contested case. These conditions that all risk of increased cost is held by DTE and not placed on other customers is why I am comfortable voting to approve an ex parte approval for the order before us.
Thank you, Commissioner Peretick. Commissioner Meyer?
Sure. The commission received thousands of comments from citizens across Michigan regarding the proposed data center in Saline Township, with concerns surrounding rate increases due to the large load customer. Individual customers were concerned that they will be left with the cost if the AI bubble bursts or the needs of these large customers are never fully realized. Our authority for this case was related to the rates data centers pay for electric or natural gas service and the terms and conditions of that service. That includes guardrails to ensure there is sufficient power to serve all customers and that individual customers are not subsidizing these large load customers. The commission's review deemed the application to have met the standard for ex parte treatment. The conditional approval of the contract will not result in an increased customer rates or cost of service. The commission included conditions in the order to provide additional protections for Michigan customers to make certain customers aren't paying for the costs incurred by the data center. Those conditions include the company will be developing an energy storage project to cover the data center's maximum load and of which the data center will bear all the costs. The contract includes an increased minimum billing demand, which will ensure there is an affordability benefit to other customers and will be applied regardless of the total demand. There's a minimum termination fee of $2.3 billion under the PSA and $3.9 billion under the ESA. If the customer decides to exit the contract, the termination amounts will still apply. All risks associated with the sufficiency of collateral will be borne by DTE Electric or the data center customer. No cost will be passed on to other customer classes or ratepayers. The ex parte application is conditioned on the assumption that the data center customer and special contract will cover the costs of generation, transmission, distribution, and other costs. Future rate cases will be the appropriate forum for rate making to assign costs to the data center customer so that the existing customers don't experience a cost increase. If there are any concerns regarding the claimed affordability benefits and costs fall upon existing customers, the commission can at any time issue an order show cause.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. And I just want to offer a couple of thoughts here as well. I understand there's a lot of frustration here. I do, and I want to provide some discussion of why I got here. So first of all, there was a fair amount of interest in the process around this, and as was noted, this is being decided on an ex parte basis, and as Mr. Byrne noted, under the Commission's rules, we're allowed to approve things, applications on an ex parte basis where the approval does not have the effect of raising rates for other customers. I just want to note that this process is actually a fairly regular part of how we do our work. Earlier in today's agenda, for example, we approved 3 other applications on an ex parte basis. 2 involved requests from Alpena Power Company and Northern States Power Company seeking approval for their respective voluntary green pricing programs. And the third was the immediately preceding order, which was an application that requests from Northern State Power Company seeking ex parte approval of its revised depreciation rates. Perhaps more analogous to the current case, in recent years, we've also adopted a number of special contracts between DTE Electric Company and Ford Motor Company, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, and the University of Michigan, related to how DTE would procure new renewable energy projects paid for by the customer to serve the customer's respective renewable energy goals. In December 2022, for example, we approved on an ex parte basis a special contract between DTE and Ford for up to 675 megawatts of new solar projects under a specific set of terms and conditions included in the special contract. We also approved, also on an ex parte basis, an amended and restated special contract between the same 2 parties last December that reflect additional provisions. In May 2023, we approved on an ex parte basis a special contract between DTE and FCA for up to 400 megawatts of new renewable projects. And in July of this year, we approved on an ex parte basis a special contract between DTE and U of M for 80 megawatts of new generation, again under terms and conditions laid out in the special contract. There are obviously some differences, including the size. The project today involves the largest project that we've seen. It's 1,383 megawatts. But there are some similarities as well. Together, just the 3 projects I mentioned total more than 1,150 megawatts, and that was all done in the last 3 years. Indeed, the contracts with Ford Motor Company and Fiat Chrysler Automobiles represent the largest and second largest voluntary renewable energy procurement contracts between a customer and a utility in U.S. history. Like today's order, those orders were groundbreaking. Like the contracts in front of us, those orders also required DTE to build or procure additional resources to serve customers. In the Ford, FCA, and U of M cases, it was solar. Today, it's battery storage. And like the contracts in front of us, there were a number of provisions that were redacted for a variety of reasons, including subscription charges and customer default provisions that are commercially sensitive. And so while I recognize the concerns that have been raised around the process in this case, the reality is that the Commission used a very similar process in a number of other instances, including in similar cases in just the past couple of years. Approval on an ex parte basis is also consistent with applicable law and court precedent. A lot of the discussion in various filings in this case centers around a Michigan Court of Appeals case from 1997 entitled Attorney General versus Public Service Commission. And in that case, like here, the Attorney General, then it was Frank Kelly, appealed a decision of the Commission in which it approved a utilities proposal on an ex parte basis that was also involving a special contract. The Attorney General in that case, again, Frank Kelly, argued that the Commission had gotten it wrong. And argued that it wasn't enough to say that the specific approval of the special contract wouldn't pass along additional costs, but that no additional costs could ever result from the special contract. And the Court of Appeals ultimately disagreed with Attorney General Kelly and said, no, it's really the effect of the order in front of you approving the special contracts. If that doesn't by itself increase costs, then the Commission is within its rights to use the ex parte process for approval. But what I'd note is that I believe that in the order in front of us, we're actually holding ourselves to the higher standard articulated by Attorney General Kelly in that case, that it can never result in additional costs being borne by other customers. And that's the condition that we put on the approval in this case. I also, ma'am, I need to ask you to leave. My second point is the role of the staff in this, because there's been a fair amount of concern that, as was noted earlier, that these contracts were never actually reviewed. And that's just not true. Our staff plays a critically important role, as Mr. Byrne identified, in ensuring that the public interest is represented in our proceedings. In fact, in a number of orders and upheld by the courts over decades, we have found that the staff's participation alone in a proceeding ensures that the public interest is adequately represented, including in the entering into settlement agreements. And we had a number of those cases on our agenda today as well. The staff also has unique audit powers, particularly in cases where they are the only party other than the utility participating in the case, such as here. That ensures that we can ask questions, test assumptions, reproduce modeling results, in short, perform the critical oversight and regulatory roles that are the foundation to the reason why public utility commissions or public service commissions exist. We don't take things on faith, and our staff is critical in making sure that even in cases that we're reviewing on an ex parte basis, that we have all the facts in front of us before we move forward. A third concern was confusion or concern about what was in the contracts, particularly the redacted provisions. And I know that this has been addressed, but I just want to flag a number of issues here, because I think the details matter in this case. I think they matter in all cases, but I think they particularly matter in this case. So under the generally applicable D11 rate under which the customer could otherwise have taken service, there is a minimum contract duration for any customer of a megawatt or larger of 5 years. In the contract that we have in front of us today, that's nearly 4 times as long, a minimum contract duration of 19 years. Under the generally applicable D11 rate, there is a 50 to 65% minimum billing demand. In the special contract that we have in front of us, that's 80%, meaning that data center operators will have to pay a minimum of 80% of the contracted electricity use, no matter how much they use if their actual use is lower. If it's higher than 80%, they pay their actual amount. But that's a significant improvement around the otherwise applicable contract terms. In the generally applicable D11 tariff, there is no explicit reference to a termination payment included in that tariff. In the contracts in front of us today, the termination payment is up to 10 years worth of minimum billing demand if the facility stops operating earlier than contracted. And that, I think, provides billions of dollars in revenue, guaranteed revenue, as Commissioner Myers noted. And then finally, there were a number of questions that were raised about what happens if this is a bubble. What happens if this ultimately just goes away or the whole system collapses? And so we spent a significant amount of time around the credit and collateral provisions that were included in the contracts. And effectively, both the power supply agreement and the energy storage agreement require the customer to guarantee all payment obligations under each agreement through a combination of parent guarantee and, if applicable, a letter of credit. That includes any termination payments that would be required if the customer voluntarily terminates or defaults. And whether the letter of credit is utilized and the level of the letter of credit is determined based on the credit score of the customer. And so this provides real protections that don't exist in many other states to ensure that if ultimately this is a bubble, if this is all overblown and the load doesn't materialize, that again, even in that worst case scenario, customers are still protected. But we went further than that and conditioned, as has been noted, our approval on the additional commitment from DTE that no costs, even in that scenario or any other, will ultimately be passed on to other customers. Additional requirements, as Mr. Byrne noted, in capacity demonstrations, integrated resource plans, and clean energy plans, and renewable energy plans that are designed to isolate the impact of the data center to better track costs so that we've got full awareness of what costs were triggered by the data center and which were not, so that we can enforce the condition that no costs are ultimately borne by other customers. A series of filing requirements, a requirement to file a generally applicable data center tariff supported by 6 cost of service studies, and that will be reviewed in a contested case. And then, as Mr. Byrne noted, some provisions around shutoffs in the event of ultimate grid shortages. And this was also in relation to questions raised of what happens if we don't have enough power on the system, even after adding 1.4 gigawatts of batteries, who gets shut off first? And our order is very clear that it is the customer. And that can either be directly or it can be through a curtailment arrangement. But the customer gets shut off before any other DTE customer gets shut off in the event of a lack of grid power. So ultimately, those provisions, both what was included in the contracts, including the redacted contracts that we and our staff were able to review, as well as the additional conditions that we imposed, led us to believe that we could meet the standard of reasonableness and in the public interest in approval of this. And I would say, I know that this conversation is happening in every state in the country right now, and I would put the contracts that are in front of us today on par or better with any that have been approved in the country. We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21990 is approved. I recognize Ms. Barbara Dodge.
Item 4C1 is case number U21903, which involves an application filed by Northern States Power Company requesting authority to increase its Michigan-based rates for natural gas service. Staff member Quinn Sharkey will describe this order.
Good afternoon, commissioners, staff, and guests of the Michigan Public Service Commission. On July 15th, 2025, Northern States Power Company, a Wisconsin corporation, or the company, filed its application with the Michigan Public Service Commission proposing an annual increase in its Michigan natural gas base rates of $2,177,374 based on a 2026 projected test year and a rate of return on common equity of 10.25%. The key drivers for the rate increase related to necessary historic and test year capital investments, increased operating and maintenance expenses, and the deferred asset associated with the Low-Income Assistance Service Program. Following the pre-hearing conference on August 9th, 2025, the company, the Michigan Department of Attorney General, and the Michigan Public Service Commission staff filed a settlement agreement on November 24th, 2025 that resolved all issues in this case. Through the settlement agreement, the parties agree that the company should be authorized to increase its natural gas rates in the annual amount of $1.6 million over 2026 and 2027 as follows. Effective on and after January 1st, 2026, the company's natural gas rates shall be increased in the annual amount of $700,000, and effective on and after January 1st, 2027, the company's natural gas rates shall be further increased in the annual amount of $900,000. The parties further agree that the company's authorized rate of return on common equity is 9.80%, which results in a calculated rate of return of 6.61% and an overall capital structure of 50% common equity. The parties also agree on the following. The company shall spend $700,000 annually of Distribution Integrity Management Plan, or DIMP, investments in 2026 and in 2027, along with filing a 10-year DIMP work plan by September 30th, 2026 in this docket. The company will commit to gas meter module completion by year-end 2025. The company shall be permitted to increase its residential fixed monthly customer charge to $13 and its small commercial fixed monthly customer charge to $25, as well as other revised rates and charges. The company will not seek an increase in its Michigan natural gas base rates to take effect prior to January 1st, 2028. The company agrees to use a revenue multiplier of 1.3466% for Michigan jurisdiction natural gas rate-making purposes. The company agrees to create an RIA present revenue allocator and shall continue to use said allocator in its future natural gas rate case filings unless otherwise directed by the Commission. The order before you approves the settlement agreement and adopts a 2026 test year, a total revenue requirement of $1.6 million with an authorized rate of return on common equity of 9.80% and a common equity ratio of 50%. Upon approval of this order, Northern States Power Company is authorized to implement the rate increase approved by this order on January 1st, 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharkey. I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21903.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21903 is approved. Item 5 on the agenda is our year in review. Without objection, I think I'd like to move past that. I know there are a lot of comments that people want to make, and rather than taking additional time to present the year in review, which we can do either virtually or in January, I'd like to move now to the time reserved for members of the public to address the commission. As mentioned in the notice for today's meeting, we will take public comments in the following order. First from individuals attending in person, then from individuals participating remotely, either through Microsoft Teams or the phone who have entered the speaker queue. As a reminder, this public comment period is for commissioners to listen to comments and concerns. When providing comment, please indicate your name and where you live if you are willing to share so that we have it for our records. And again, please limit comments to one per person and keep them to no longer than 3 minutes so we have a chance to hear from all who would like to comment. We do have a number of cards in front of us, and so I will call up Tim Bruno and then Wendy Albers is on deck. Mr. Bruno, thanks for being back with us.
Try to compose myself after that ridiculous vote. My name's Tim Bruno, Saline Township. I live about 1.5 miles from the data center site. I have some information I'd like to impart to everybody here, and the commission already has this information. 3 residents of Saline Township have filed a ZBA case appealing the permits that were issued on 12/4/25 to allow some of the initial construction trailers and fencing at the data center. An appeal requires them to stop what they're doing, stop all work, while the ZBA decides the case respectfully. To that end, there's been a nonprofit formed to help offset legal funds for residents fighting data centers. The fund is called Rural Michigan Defense Fund. The Rural Michigan Defense Fund was created to assist rural communities with limited resources to fight back against billion-dollar companies, undue political pressure, and special interest groups waging war on our way of life. At this time, the donations are not tax deductible. We are working to correct that. Because of how lightning fast these things went, we were not able to pull that off. Go to stopsalinedatacenter.org if you'd like to donate or learn more. Stopsalinedatacenter.org. Now I'd like to address some information that was imparted by the gentleman sitting there. I've said this at more than one meeting, and I guess I'll say it again. Related Digital told my wife personally that DTE approached them because they have extra power on the grid. Extra power on the grid. Now here we are for this battery thing and the power plant they're probably going to put in there. The DTE wrote a letter to our township supervisor, either, I can't remember the date, August 4th or 5th. And in that letter, it says that DTE currently has enough power for the data center. Now, obviously someone's lying to us, or everyone's lying to us, I suppose. Furthermore, there's a gas line that goes behind there. And I don't know if everyone knows this, but the property is more than the property in Saline Township. It's 575 acres in Saline, around 476 in Bridgewater. They wrote Bridgewater a letter saying they weren't going to develop that. But there's a gas line and there's also an oil pipeline that comes through there. So I feel like our friends in Bridgewater are about to get some sort of gas powered plant. And that's going to be right in their backyards, right behind this through eminent domain. And there's an Eagle meeting tonight at 6. I think it's only virtual. It'll probably be a farce just like this one, and they'll approve to eviscerate some swampland. They're looking to put in 7 bridges and asking for more, possibly asking for more bridges. Why on earth do they need 7 bridges if they're going to preserve the rural character of this property? In fact, at a meeting I was recently attended, someone asked a Related Digital person, said, "Are you going to tear down the farmhouse and the barns?" And they said, "No, we'd like to preserve the rural character of the area." Do you think anything about this project preserves anything? No, they're going to take the swamplands. They're going to pollute our air. They're going to pollute the water. They're going to discharge glycol into the Saline River. And if I don't know if there's any scientists out here, but glycol is antifreeze. That's going to cause, or could cause, algal blooms, kill fish, might kill livestock, might kill people, might kill our pets. We don't know. It's going to get into all the aquifers. We won't be happy, I suppose, until the Great Lakes run dry, till the farmland's all gone, till all the air's polluted. And guess what happens when that happens? We're extinct. Thank you so much for extincting us, if that's a word.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Wendy Albers and I'm from Augusta Township. And look, you guys have been in an enormous amount of pressure. And so I appreciate you all taking the time and your staff doing their due diligence. However, MPSC, the two letters in the middle are public service. And today, I, along with everyone here, the 500 plus people online or on Teams, probably don't feel like they've been publicly served today. One of the commissioners earlier in your comments talked about the speed of which we are facing these decisions, and I get that. I used to think that Michigan was maybe a more put together and smarter state. What we're seeing today is, you know, Illinois just came out with their facing an energy shortage because they've sunk all of their eggs into a basket of solar, battery storage, and data centers. Also ex parte. Oh, did.
I think he's the cameraman.
I think you might have turned the lights off.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I also, I'm not comfortable, and I appreciate your decisions currently where you listed the other ex parte decisions, but always to me, it just feels like ex people. When you make these decisions, you're eliminating the very necessity of what government and public service bodies are all about. Even our own attorney general wasn't privy to the documents that you were, which is just wrong. So while I respect your time in taking care of this, oh, and also the financials, you know, just a couple of days ago, Blue Owl, the funding pulled out of this project, this very project that you have just voted on. And I appreciate the protections that you put in place, but I just don't trust them. And so I think it's just a really sad day in Michigan today. Thank you.
Nicole Biber and then Catherine Haushalter.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, you know, they're already doing some work over there in Saline. So they basically counted on you to trust in DTE and the tech billionaires. DTE seems to be able to count on you all to keep approving rate hikes. I'm not sure how that doesn't have anything to do with where they think they're coming up with all this money for. There was a long list of promises of conditionalities. If they could do all that and we're willing, why not do that in the first place? Take care of that while it's a contested case. You know, conditional on financial state of the customer, it's pretty dismal already. So as Wendy said, that P in there, that public, Michigan Public Service Commission, does it stand for public or does it stand for profiteers? You know, I over the years taught composition, college intro composition, and that's all about critical thinking, about improving focus, discipline, avoiding the kind of dilution of important points. I would often tell them, okay, remember, read the prompt. So that's kind of like read your mission statement, you know, provides the basic parameters, setting the expectations, provides the principles of the task at hand, which is to serve the public interest. In this case, protecting ratepayers, not tie a pretty bow on our ex parte blindfolds. So serve public interest, not serve the governor who appointed you, not the elected politicians who are acting like returns on investments for their campaign contributors, not the chambers of commerce, not the big bosses of labor and union workers. You know, you can all do work in your communities for our water infrastructure that's completely neglected, and certainly not the tech bro oligarchy. So, you know, maybe change your name, be honest about being who's served, because the public here today feels pretty betrayed. And that integrated resource planning parameters, y'all mentioned environmental justice. That doesn't mean okaying more sacrifice zones. It doesn't mean just checking off boxes instead of providing actual protections or regulations on monopolies. Environmental justice means our needs come first, that our homelands matter, that that we can drink our water, grow our food, live among wildlife, and secure a future for the next 7 generations. This is very disappointing.
Catherine Haushalter and then Ash Haushalter.
I wonder if you guys are parents. I am. I have 5 kids, and they're 4. Well, she just turned 5, and 6, and 8, and 10, and 12. And I live 0.145 miles from the site. I see it from my bedroom window. I know you look at facts, but this is affecting real people. And I wonder if in 5 years you'll come over to my house and want a drink of water from my well water. Would you drink it? Would you? When the power does go out and you have to shut off their power and they're running hundreds of generators, diesel generators, are you going to come over with a gas mask so my kids can still play outside and get fresh air? What you did is hurting real families. You can say and justify it however you want, but I want you to remember my kids and remember me. You're hurting us. You do not serve me.
Ash Haushalter and then Emily Kennedy.
A lot of what I had prepared to say is relevant at this point. Just to bring up a couple things though, all the contracts ex parte that you brought up with Fiat, Ford, and U of M, these are well-established businesses. These are not speculative startups. And they were much smaller, so that is not appropriate to compare them. Secondly, you have set a dangerous precedent, allowing big business to come in here and dictate what they can do on their terms, not the public's terms, on their terms. You have allowed it. Kate was talking about our kids. I think of my kids. Think of the child that you were. Would you be proud of what you did today? Would 8-year-old you go, I did it. I hooked up big business at the cost of the public and polluting. Another question for you. You guys cited all the studying you did, all the studies and all the modeling. This battery storage, how much carbon is on the front end of that? When those trucks are going in, how much carbon is on the front end of the construction of the data centers? You talk about green energy. How much carbon is going into the construction of all these green projects? Do you guys have numbers on that? No? You don't have numbers on what the front end carbon is for all the construction projects, all the green energy that's going in?
This is for us to listen to comments.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Haushalter. Emily Kennedy, then Justin McCavey. Is Emily Kennedy still here? Justin McCavey, and then Sean Weber.
My speech is kind of a little bit irrelevant at this point, but I'm going to read it anyways. It's addressed to all of you. Commissioners, look me in the eye. My name's Justin McCauley. My family has been here for 5 generations of proud Michiganders. But today is not about me. I'm here for every soul in the state who's called Michigan home, for the legacy that built her beautiful. This land didn't come easy. It was earned, blood for, by hands calloused and hearts unbreakable. The Anishinaabe walked here first. People who heard the Great Lakes whisper and answered with stewardship. They followed prophecies across generations, lit fires to guide the way, and stood firm so the water would run clean forever. Their blood mixed with the soil to keep it sacred. Then came the rest, your kin and mine. Folks who crossed the oceans with nothing but grit in their teeth. They swung axes into ancient white pines till their hands bled, turned wilderness into farms that fed nations. Forged steel in Detroit's fire that won wars for freedom. Irish laying rails, Germans raising barns that didn't stand proud, or still stand proud. Poles pouring sweat into factories. Finns digging copper from the UP's heart, and Italians planting orchard that burst red every fall. They buried their dead in the dirt, raised children under these skies, and made Michigan a place that inspires. A land of endless lakes, dunes that dance with the wind, forests where a man can still find silence and strength. Every cherry blossom in Traverse City, every northern light over the straits, every sunrise painting the big lake gold. It's a gift from those who came before. They didn't ask for much, just that we keep it whole, keep it beautiful, keep it ours. And now, these outsiders slink in with their red-acted contracts, pages blacked out thicker than a moonless night, and ask you to sign away our future. DTE's deal for the saline beast, 1.4 gigawatts, special rates, rushed approval. They promise no rate hikes, but we all know the truth. Those billions for new lines and substations don't vanish. They land on us, on families already stretched thin, on farmers who can't afford another spike while they pocket the profits and walk when the servers hum. They lie, commissioners, about the jobs, few and fleeting, about the water, swearing closed loop till costs bite. They're draining aquifers dry. About transparency, hiding the fine print because daylight would kill the deal. Greed dressed as progress. Extraction wearing a smile. You feel that pull, don't you? The weight of those ancestors watching, the pride in what they built, the fear of what will leave our kids if we sell it cheap. That's your consciousness speaking. Reject this rush contract tonight. Demand every page unredacted. Force full independent review. No shortcuts. Make them prove every claim, pay every cost themselves. Protect the people whose blood is in the soil. Because this commission was made to stand for us, for the legacy that made Michigan inspiring. Do that and you'll sleep sound knowing you honored those who came before. Fail and the regret that'll haunt you then any winter.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley. Sean Weber, and then Beth Foley.
My name is Sean Weber from Armada Township and House District 65. Mr. Chairman and the Commissioners, I want to share my disappointment with the Commission's decision in case number U21990. Many people took the time to show up, submit comments, and clearly asked that this matter be treated as a contested case. That did not happen, and it is not the outcome many of us hoped for. At the same time, I think it is important to be honest about where responsibility truly lies. The Michigan Public Service Commission is not a rulemaking body. The commission can only enforce the laws that already exist. When those laws fail to account for projects of this size and impact, the public is left with few meaningful options inside the regulatory process. This decision highlights just how outdated our framework has become when it comes to mega-scale energy and data infrastructure. Because of that reality, the next step now belongs to the citizens and anyone who is legally aggrieved by this decision. Michigan law provides a clear avenue for review, and affected parties should consider seeking judicial oversight by filing an appeal with the Michigan Court of Appeals under MCL 462.26. This process exists for moments exactly like this, when significant questions remain unresolved. But legal challenges alone are not enough. This issue ultimately demands legislative action. I am calling on state lawmakers today to step in and prohibit mega projects of this scale from directly connecting to Michigan's electric grid. Instead, Michigan should follow the example set by Oklahoma and make behind-the-meter energy generation the law of the land. These projects should supply their own power and not place new costs or risks on ratepayers or on our shared grid. I've been working on draft legislation and a broader proposal to address these concerns. If you'd like to learn more, I invite you to review that work at salineact.org. Let us take this moment and turn it into a meaningful action to protect our communities, our grid, and our future. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Beth Foley and then Jody Holden.
Good afternoon. My name is Beth Foley. I live in Saline Township. With your yes vote today, you have been down on record on the wrong side of history. You have failed your state and your community. You have caved to the political pressure at the expense of the residents you were here to serve. I came here today to make my voice heard because I was not in fact called on during the 2 previous virtual meetings, despite being present with my hand raised for the duration of both of them. If I had been allowed to speak today before you made up your minds, I would have asked for the following. Saline Township residents deserve to know a concrete, detailed plan on how they will source the power for the 25% deficit to support the facility, not we are working on a plan, as this gentleman said. Concrete plans for the remaining 200 plus acres of the 574 acres the developer purchased. They have said they will put it in land conservation, but I've yet to see any documented details on this because there's no site plan, despite repeated requests for them. In a meeting last week, Related Digital said, it's coming soon. That doesn't work for me. It shouldn't work for you either. Hyperscale data centers around the country are looking at natural gas, fossil fuels, and even nuclear to power them. With no site plan, no documentation on their intended use for the remaining anchorage, and Enbridge Line 17 transiting through the property, it's clear that they are not being transparent, and yet you wholeheartedly trust them to provide ex parte. When you look at the property in question, the Washtenaw County plat map overlaid with the NPMS pipeline maps, you can all look it up, Enbridge Line 17 runs directly through the property in question, and I do not believe this is a coincidence. These answers should have all been properly vetted, documented, and made available to the public before you made your decisions. In my life, I live with a kind of guiding mantra of leave things better than you found it. And on my farm, 2 miles from this project, on the land that I am so honored to steward, it is my goal to leave the land better than I found it. That will be my legacy. That is my gift to my children. This is your legacy. A legacy of big greed, big money intertwined with big politics. You had the opportunity to make your legacy about serving the people of Michigan, to listen to your constituents. There is potential for egregious harm by fast tracking this, with no downside in taking your time and ensuring you got it right, especially for a project of this magnitude, the likes of which have never been seen in our state. Thank you for looking at me in the eye while I'm speaking, by the way. I appreciate that. Instead, your legacy is bowing to the political pressure at the expense of the residents that you serve. But you have made it obvious that you think who you think you really work for, and it's not us. I drive by the project site multiple times a day, and it looks like Armageddon. And I am not exaggerating. And this is only the beginning. They don't even have permits to impact the wetlands that they are driving their trucks over as we speak. Have you driven out there to see it? Take a nice, beautiful country drive out to our township to see the destruction for yourself. I am sad for my community. I am sad for Michigan, and I am sad for all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Foley. Jody Holden and then Sarah Rabs, sorry.
My name's Jody Holden, and I live in the city of Ypsilanti. You've spoken at length, and let's make a giant leap. You've spoken at length about how our electric costs won't go up. Is there a mechanism to guarantee that as DTE raises our rates because of other reasons, that it's not really because they need it because of this? Is there a mechanism to check how our water rates go up? Do we have redress if our water service is interrupted? In the future, I'll point you to Northern Virginia, where Loudoun County sits, having the largest concentration of AI data centers in the country. The percentage, the proportion of tax revenue is so lopsided now. They are considering adjusting the tax rates for the citizens there. I hear nothing about any of these issues from this commission. And I understand you have no obligation to answer this now, but it'd be nice if we had some answers, not considering the environmental disaster that could be befalling us with the diesel engines and the marshlands, et cetera. So if nobody has any answers, what are you doing making a decision like this?
Thank you, Ms. Holden. Sarah Brabs. And then Aylin Atnell.
Hello again. I'm Sarah Brabs from York Township, here to speak about this ex parte approval on U21990 and the speculative fever dream that we find ourselves all sharing right now. I just want to say I respect and appreciate you and your staff and your work, and I really respect and understand that you feel fine about what you just did and what they just did. Clearly, you know many reasons why many of us don't, but let me take a little bit of a different tact. Imagine that I am an uncredible, terrible person who has bright sides and nice characteristics occasionally. Now that's DTE. Imagine that DTE creates a school to educate your children that you have to send them to, but you cannot know much about this school because all of the rules and the curriculum are hidden. Instead, you get people popping out of windows that are teachers who you don't quite hear what they say, but they say things randomly and hope that you pick up on it. The first time, whoever that guy is, I would love to know his name. That's the first time that the public heard much of what he said. It's the first time that we heard a lot of what you said as you explained your decision. So clearly, that information is fine for the public to know, but it wasn't shared with us. So it's not just the redacted lack of transparency and false urgency and the safety and the concerns that are all legitimate. It's not just our earned cynicism where DTE's claims are concerned about not raising rates. That all matters. It's also that this information is information you could have shared a little earlier. To me, as someone who used to teach public speaking at Eastern Michigan University and who is a speaker, it smacks like we did our labor for you so that you would know exactly correctly how to make your final decision that was actually already made. It sounds like you are on top of everything. It's like we're sending our kids to a school that sometimes has power, is mostly dark, has weird people teaching in it, and we're just being told, don't worry, by the principal and by the funder, DTE and Related Digital, just trust us. We have your best interest in mind. Don't even worry about it, but you do have to send your kids here. And I'm sorry, if you can't pay your electric bill, good luck to you. If you can't send your kids here, that's okay. That's not our problem. Don't worry about it. Or it will take 7 months to fix our grid issue for one customer who's right by the Saline Township data center. Like, that's not an electric company that I would be believing. But anyway, what I did not hear with all of this new information that infuriates me to hear right now is anything about leverage, accountability, who determined if that's there. Is that there? We don't know. But if it is, we don't know who determined what it looks like. We don't know who's in charge of it, if it's part of the deal makers or is it someone else? What does that look like? How are you testing and making sure that they do what they say, especially because in one small way, they are not supposed to be driving their massive trucks on our roads. Guess what they've been doing? Driving their massive trucks on our roads. It's a small thing, but it's a big thing to people that live here. They are not allowed to do that. No one cares. That's all up the flagpole. Everyone knows there's complaints. No one cares. No one's doing anything. They're just out there doing whatever they want on this land. So like, that doesn't give me a whole lot of faith for any kind of actual accountability taking place, especially when, we can't see it. any kinds of consequences. So yeah, money, sure, whatever. So much more about this is more than money. I think DTE should go out of business if they raise our rates and it's ever connected back to this decision. You did approve ex parte for DTE with solar projects. As far as I'm aware, you haven't done it before for something heavier on the grid itself without solar. Yes, there's the battery storage stuff, but so much with the size of this, the load it's going to take. And if you just look at Illinois, Michigan is like Illinois. If Illinois is the Titanic and hits an iceberg, because of allowing this kind of stuff without the time and the testing that is necessary to be smart and wise with our resources, Illinois is a preview. It's the Titanic. We're the ship right behind the Titanic that now knows where the iceberg is. And we could have turned the ship, but instead we're just following along and hoping that they knocked enough of that iceberg over. So like, we'll be fine. Don't worry. And if we're not, tech bros care and they will pay. Right. So anyways.
Perhaps I need to ask you to wrap it up.
I'm sure I have. But we listened to you for 10 minutes. So can I have 30 more seconds?
I'll give you 30 more seconds.
Thank you. So I would like to know if you would be willing to make them unredact and make available every single thing on this contract that can be, given everything you just told us. And if something can't be redacted, if you would make available why that is not redacted. That would go a little way towards a little bit of transparency and faith. That is my ask. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Aylin Altnall and Kelly Coleman next.
Hello. So a lot of people here today have spoken about the logistical fallout of what's going to happen if these data centers are built. Unprecedented water and electric usage, infrastructure strain, zoning, economic projections, you've heard all of that. I'm here to add to the voices of Saline Township residents. As a Michigander, regarding the humanitarian aspect of this decision and its inevitable fallout, both intangible and tangible. Saline Township residents have been at the front lines of this fight, and we all have a responsibility to uplift their voices and become engaged in the fight against these corporations. Data centers of this scale are being pitched across the state, as you said, across the country. And the precedent set here today that you've unilaterally reached will affect communities both state and nationwide. Right now, AI is going through its Wild West stage when it comes to how unfettered its access to our resources is through the reckless permissiveness of those who are elected to help be stewards of this land. It's a novel technology and people want to push it to its limits. Human beings are curious, for better or worse. That's one of our defining traits. We're curious to see what we can do and what we can get away with, but there's a certain line that we're about to cross. There's a threshold coming up very fast where, in that curiosity to see how AI and technological innovation can benefit us, we are on the brink of opening Pandora's box in this state. The beginning of irreparable damage that this state will incur as we negotiate the fallout of our curiosity without foresight, not only to our environmental resources, but in terms of the human fallout that will follow. And that damage will never be able to be repaired, no matter how many jobs are added or how much profit this state brings in the short term. Again, whatever benefits that have swayed you will be short term. We've seen this before. Just refer to what happened with the Enbridge pipeline back in 2010 in Kalamazoo, one of the largest oil spills in mainland USA. That pipeline was put in for short-sighted economic gain. It was pitched as job creation. The fallout from that decision is something the state will likely never fully recover from. Anyone in power in this state who hears these corporate pitches to poach priceless land has a duty to safeguard human and environmental interests from corporate hegemony. That's a part of your job. To put it another way, everyone here knows what Rick Snyder has been guilty of. That man could cure cancer, he could climb Mount Everest, and he would still forever be known as the man who poisoned Flint, Michigan. That decision stained this state's history, and it will follow his name for the rest of time, not because people are cruel, but because some harms are too great to be outweighed by later achievements. This is not meant to intimidate you. This is not meant to scare you or shut you down. This is meant to engage you, to get you to look at the long-term outlook of what this decision may cost you. Not just politically, but as human beings, if you allow these data centers to be built. I'm here to ask you to look beyond the immediate gains and consider what this decision may cost you, your constituents, and your children in the long term. There are many ways to create jobs and invest in Michigan's future. Sacrificing environmental integrity and public well-being for corporate profit or for personal gain should never be one of them. We are all in the same boat. These are the stakes. Thank you.
Kelly Coleman, then Jared Guerrero Salinas.
Yes, my name is Kelly Coleman. I am a Saline Township resident, approximately 2 miles from where this data center is going in. I am sorely disappointed in the commission's decision today that allows the monopoly of DTE to override everything that is dear to us in Saline Township. Nothing of this magnitude has been brought to this commission before, and you should never in 7 weeks have decided of this magnitude that this should just go through. Related Digital and DTE do not have financial backing for this project at this time. There's no reason for you to have ex parte this without all of those guarantees in place to start with. They can't guarantee that they're going to be able to financially do this, yet we are giving DTE the ability to just put stuff in, even though there's not financial backing. They are already on site. DTE has been there almost every day with their trucks. They have demolished this beautiful piece of land. And I'm afraid that they've already started things and they just expected that you would agree to this, and you have. There is no consequence for them having just anticipated you. They've already been on site. They're already doing things. And I am very disappointed, and I'm sorry that this commission feels this way.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Jared Guerrero Salinas, and then Shannon Snyder.
All right, so this decision that you have made, I stand in opposition to it. This ex parte is a secret deal that you have allowed DTE and OpenAI to get away with, right? So I was in the military for 20 years, and one thing I've gotten really good at is being held accountable during my service and holding others accountable, right? You guys, famous now, right? So this whole thing about DTE and the data centers, why are they pushing it so fast, right? Why are they pushing it so fast? They're doing it all around the country in rural areas, all over the nation. What did I learn from infantry instructors in my time in service? Violence of action wins the day every time. Why do you think they're pushing so fast right now with the backdrop of everything else that's happening in our country and all the civil unrest that we got going on and immigration, right? Who's using AI for AI slop, the stupid pornography? It's definitely who's using it in their tactical operations today. It's immigration. And the administration already put out that they are going to use immigration enforcement capabilities to go after dissidents, regular American citizens, for their opinion, maybe the color of their skin, maybe where they're standing, right? And these data centers are the brains, the processing power that they are counting on. That's why they're pushing it so fast. These acquisitions of farmland, these data centers being built, they are tactical operations by an organization that is part of a broader operational strategy that ICE is tactically carrying out every single day. So this processing power that you have granted OpenAI at the cost of our Michigan resources and our health, the blood is on your hands. It's going to be for the rest of your lives. And I will make sure that people know about it, because I know what it's like to hold people to a higher standard, to hold them accountable. And for the rest of my life and the rest of your lives, I will never forget your name, and you should not forget mine. Because this grassroots movement to get rid of AI, guess what? It can get rid of other things too. That's what I got for you. Do
Thank
better.
you, Mr. Guerrero Salinas. Shannon Snyder.
mission of the MPSC is to serve the public by ensuring safe, reliable, and accessible energy. Totally get that a lot of the passionate comments that are made today feel like they are out of your jurisdiction. I stand behind every one of you and the comments that you've made, and thank you for your bravery and your tenacity here. Just seems really foolish to trust the salesman. They say they won't increase electricity costs for the community, but why would we trust that? Why would we trust their data and their modeling and their facts and their figures? We know it's not true. It hasn't been true in any other community that has adopted data centers. There isn't accountability or consequence for their actions, as many of the accounts today demonstrate. Celine's is an unprecedented size and scale. And how are they benchmarking and calculating? You mentioned modeling and forecasting. Cool. These are processes that can be highly accurate in their predictions or easily manipulated and dependent on their inputs, which are easily subject to bias. We already pay some of the highest rates and have less reliable service. So thank you for protecting us. Thanks for ensuring that we have reliable and accessible energy. You're doing a great job. I got to bring up something about the environmental aspect, and I understand it's not your jurisdiction, but there is relevance here. We have problematic and expensive brownfields. We have lead contamination at Water Street on the bank of the Huron River, thanks to Detroit United Railway. We have PFAS contaminations thanks to shoe company Wolverine Worldwide and others, I'm sure. We've got the Gelman dioxane plume. And these are all despite the promises provided by the businesses who came before with great claims of ROI and community benefit. Where are they now? Where are those jobs? Who's paying for the cleanup? Who's left in the wake? We are. We are. Who's holding them accountable to their promises and their contracts and their facts and their figures? We need to do more than verify their claims. We deserve due process. An independent risk-benefit analysis that should be done and made public. This should be examined, and the ethics of this industry should also be scrutinized. The ethics are relevant here. We may not be the shareholders, but we are the key stakeholders. We live and breathe here. We raise our families here. This is a disappointing decision, and I know you're justifying this by saying the scope of your review is specific and narrow, and the contracts are benchmarked against others, and ours is good or better, top tier even. Well, the others are terrible for the public, quantitatively and qualitatively by all of those measures. So thanks for making sure that we are at the top of the crap pile. We just might win the race to the bottom. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Don't have any additional cards for folks in the room. I know that we do have a number of folks who are waiting online. I don't know how many we'll get through, but I want to make sure, particularly given that some have been trying to participate in virtual options more than once, that we at least start. So first I have Tawana P, and second is Kevin. Is Tawana P still with us?
Hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yep.
Okay. Wow. I'll just start. It's unfortunate that this is where we are. Sold out to big tech's wet dream for artificial general intelligence and DTE's false promises not to impact already frequently increasing rates. They can barely keep the power on across Michigan during heavy storms and rains. Promising some temp contractor jobs will never be a reason to sell out the entire state. They destroyed the water and environment in Silicon Valley, talking about the AI data centers, and now they're coming for the Great Lakes and the land that surrounds it. And to add insult to injury, we had to listen to quotes about other dehumanizing deals that were able to be floated through and voted through under our noses without the public having much knowledge about those contracts either, as if that was something to be proud of. All we have left now is anger, because with every new AI development, the other aspects of our dignity are diminished. I really wish you all would have voted no, but I still believe in the power of the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Tawana. Up I have Kevin and then Seth Bernard. Kevin, if you're still online.
It's like you're still muted, Kevin.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My biggest concern is that through the big beautiful bill, artificial intelligence is not regulated at all. And I think what's happening here is that millionaires, billionaires are making money, and you guys, 3 of you representing the state of Michigan, I'm surprised. There's 3 of you, are making decisions that are going to affect people's lives. There hasn't been a whole lot said about the environment. I think cost was the main concern. But 4.1 gigabytes, or I mean, what is it, gigawatts, is enough power to power 1 million houses, 1,050,000 houses to be exact. And that's a lot of power. And Saline is a pretty small community. There was a power center that was put in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, that was supposed to be a storage facility. So they lied and said, this is going to be a storage facility. But in fact, a data center was built. So these are the kind of people that are putting in these data centers, and you guys are trusting them. And just like people said earlier, you're just listening to a lot of smoke and mirrors. And I'm really sad that that's what's happening. But anyway, this is unregulated. In that bill, it's going to be unregulated for 10 years. Just think of the destruction that's going to happen. And like they said earlier, it's happening so fast and furious that we haven't really considered what it's going to do to our environment, to our infrastructure that's going to fall apart. Who's going to pay for it? You and me, the taxpayers, not only through higher costs in utilities, but also our taxes going to something that we don't want. Our infrastructure is not going to be able to handle this. And they're not going to be able to build an infrastructure or to put in these batteries like the gentleman said earlier. What are these batteries doing to our carbon footprint? The real picture, behind it. But anyway, it's pretty scary, and I'm not happy from what I've heard from this commission today. And I was this was just a spur of the moment thing that I listened to. Someone told me about, but for 3 of you guys, and I don't know how much you're being paid or how much money you're getting under the table, but this is all about money, and you know it. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Kevin. Up next is Seth Bernard and then Michael W.
Hello, thank you. Seth Bernard here from Kalkaska County. I'm the founder of the Clean Water Campaign, a musician. And like many of us, I'm having to sort of pivot at the last minute from what I had planned to say. And what I'd like to just do here is speak from the heart and genuinely try to bring some love into this space and into this moment that we're all sharing. It's an important moment. I believe that the folks before us here, Commissioner Paratek, Chair Scripps, Commissioner Myers, genuinely pursued public service with a sense of trying to serve the public. And what we're dealing with here is good people who are dealing with a difficult system. And what I see here is that the best that you all could do on our behalf after unprecedented and overwhelming public opposition for granting ex parte is to provide some conditions. The condition for DTE and its shareholders to bear all of the risk for costs not recovered from Green Chili Ventures is one that I think all of us hope can be upheld sincerely. And right now, the movement needs to recognize that this is not the end of the story here. This is a hard part of the story for all of us. But I believe that there's an opportunity here for a hero arc from the Michigan Public Service Commission. And there's an opportunity for all of us to deal with some of the bigger issues that are challenging us here. The main one being that DTE is the #1 contributor to Michigan politics right now. And we have the opportunity to take the money out of politics in Michigan with Mop Up Michigan. You can go to mopupmichigan.org and learn more about this ballot provision. We also have some brave representatives, Wegela and DeSena, who have introduced legislation to repeal the incentives for AI industries and hyperscale AI data centers in Michigan. We can breathe life into this potential legislation through contacting our representatives. And the people that I listened to today giving public comment, I think would make incredible public officials. And I hope that many of you run for public office. And we have the opportunity here to be a part of a big transformation, every single one of us. And I will continue working. I will continue fighting. I will continue to sing and organize with you all. And I hope that this difficult part of the story can translate into some transformation for all of us in the future as we continue to work day and night to uphold the integrity of pure Michigan and protect our sacred waters. Thank you.
Sorry. Michael W. And then we have a phone number with the last 4 being 3408.
Hello, I'm a DTE ratepayer and voicing my opposition to the proposed Saline Data Center and DTE's ex parte request to proceed without proper due diligence, which the 3 of you just passed. You, as the Michigan Public Service Commission, must not allow this proposed Saline Data Center or any other future data center to be used as a loophole for DTE to not meet its clean energy obligations. I take very seriously the contribution that I can make to solving what I and many people believe to be the challenge of our lifetimes, and that is the negative impact that climate change will have over the decades ahead. I cannot fully do my part to reduce my carbon footprint without DTE meeting its state-mandated obligations that are to be enforced by you, the Michigan Public Service Commission, that includes a renewable energy standard of 50% by 2030 and 60% by 2035, and establishes a clean energy standard of 80% by 2035 and 100% by 2040. Observing the last couple of meetings, it seems like you cannot read the room or this virtual room either, but I can clearly hear all of the opposition from the public that you serve, even if you don't. It seems like you don't read the news either. I guess you didn't see that just yesterday, Oracle's stock fell more than 5% after the news that its largest data center partner, Blue Owl Capital, is backing out of this proposed data center. You must not be aware that Oracle is drawing significant investor scrutiny over its use of debt to fund its overextended spending on AI computing capacity. You probably did not see that OpenAI CEO's Sam Altman's Code Red declaration a few weeks ago that indicated the risk that OpenAI is falling behind their competition and not likely to meet their far-fetched revenue targets. You probably didn't research to see that OpenAI's cash burn is expected to be $9 billion this year, $17 billion next year, and rise to $35 billion in 2027. You must not understand that the operational life of data centers before major modernization and decommissioning is required is 3 to 5 years when IT equipment needs to be replaced. and that the buildings rarely last 15 to 20 years. How else could you all support a 19-year contract with a limited liability corporation for a 10-year-old nonprofit research laboratory that has a hybrid capped profit model and has publicly shared that it expects to lose $60 billion before this data center would even be finished? But you tell us that you can assure us ratepayers that the public that you serve has zero chance that we'll be stuck covering the highly likely losses on a stranded asset that you just rushed through and approved ex parte. And you say that you can assure us that you can still do your job of making sure the DTE meets its state mandated obligations for clean and renewable energy. And you do this without the due diligence or consideration of the many non-economic harms it will create, including air, noise, and water pollution, electronic waste, habitat destruction, and loss of biodiversity. And while all of this is going on, you'll be able to assure us that our grid will not be strained despite its horrid state, and that DTE, with some of the longest power restoration times in the nation, will still be able to improve its average restoration time. The three of you voted unanimously today to let on this ex parte request, but please let the record show that every single public comment made today was also unanimous in their opposition to the vote that you just made. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Up next, we have the phone number with the last four digits being 3408. If you're still on. Looks like you're muted. You can press *6 to unmute yourself if you're having. All right, I will go to the next one and then I'll come back to you. So the next one is V. Just the letter V.
Hi.
We can hear you.
All right, well, I also had to revise everything that I had to say. And if we had been able to speak before your decision, it would have been a little nicer. But many folks have tried to reason with you with facts and evidence that has unfortunately not worked, despite there being lots of it, because your minds have been made up since day one. You've shown that your loyalty is to your pockets and not your people. So I ask the forces of all the gods in the universe that you will all go home and look in the mirror and see yourselves how we see you now. I ask that with the same taste of acrid bile with which we remember Rick Snyder. And I ask that as our riverbeds dry up, so do your bank accounts, and the money God, whose altar you sacrificed us upon, devours you in his greed as well. May your choice today haunt you for the rest of your life, and the suffering of the people of Saline, Michigan, and the world haunt you and stay with you tenfold.
Be there.
Up next, we have Stephanie Bruette. Oh, sorry, I'll go back to the person with 3408. If you're able to unmute yourself, you may have to press *6. All right, we'll go to Stephanie Bruette. Or Bruet.
Yes, thank you. I want to raise a concern about how this decision plays out in the real world beyond just rates and accounting. I understand the commission has said DTE will be responsible for all costs associated with this data center load, including building roughly 1.2 gigawatts of new infrastructure at its own expense. And that this proceeding is limited to reviewing rates and costs. But battery storage alone cannot support a project of this size. Batteries do not create energy. They only store energy generated somewhere else, typically only a few hours. A data center runs continuously, which means this approval necessarily depends on a large amount of new generation, not just storage. At today's scales, providing the 1.3 gigawatts of power with utility scale solar typically requires an order of 10,000 acres of solar panels. And based on the design and layouts of current projects already in the PA 233Q, the actual land footprint is often closer to double that, once spacing, buffers, access roads, substations, and associated battery storage are included. My concern is that by approving the load and infrastructure here, the system is effectively committing the state to tens of thousands of acres of industrial energy development, solar and large-scale batteries, without any discussion in this proceeding of farmland impacts or the requirement under PA 233 to avoid unreasonable diminishment of agricultural land. When these decisions are split across separate cases, it becomes very hard for the public to understand where or whether those land use protections are actually being considered. From the outside, this feels like the land use outcome is being decided indirectly through a rate case. I'm asking the commission to recognize that these decisions are connected and that the full land and agricultural impact should not be effectively predetermined without being examined openly and on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bruay. Reagan Schultz is up next, and then Hunter Whitehill. Reagan Schultz, if you're still with us, you can unmute yourself. Okay, we'll move on to Hunter Whitehill, and then Mackenzie Walker. Hunter Whitehill, if you're trying to join, you may have to unmute yourself. Okay, we'll go on to Mackenzie Walker and then Jackson Kay.
Hi, Mackenzie Walker from Linden, Michigan. I mean, everyone so far has pretty well encapsulated the concerns most of us have. I don't think that the commission, MPSC, has taken into full consideration everything inside the contract in agreeing to allow DTE to go ahead with this. Because simply put, if we are supposed to have more reliability and they're going to shut them down, there's not even enough power right now for us to run our AC in the summer. Like, really? And we're expected to believe that they can increase their capacity significantly enough to supply a data center. That's unrealistic. And then for the reliability, a 20-mile-an-hour gust this summer took out power for 3 days. So I do not believe that the commission fully looked at the state of the power grid that DTE maintains and their capability of actually supplying the infrastructure. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Jackson K. And then Eric H.
Cool. Can folks hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Jackson Copel calling in from Highland Park, Michigan. I'm going to quote from an essay called 3 Cheers for the Administrative State. Here to me. Just as agencies have existing laws and regulations, they also have an embedded mindset of bureaucratic neutrality. The idea that government officials should act as nothing more than impartial arbiters. The roots of this mindset are deep. In the landmark 1887 essay, The Study of Administration, Woodrow Wilson argued that administration lies outside the proper sphere of politics. Administrative questions are not political questions. The essay talks about the process by which administrative and regulatory agencies were increasingly dissociated from the movements and progressive policies that actually created them. And I think that's what the MPSC is doing in this case. I'm not going to repeat the public comments and the very skilled and knowledgeable technical interveners who put in comments on this. But I think that all of you are aware that the construction of a data center of this scale and the demand growth that it causes is going to have huge systemic impacts far beyond the narrow rate analysis that you chose to defend your decision on the basis of. And you're choosing to make the decision anyway, despite the unprecedented nature of these proposals and the unprecedented rush of AI development right now. And I think that is a choice, right? It's a choice to defer to a small, narrow, heavily circumscribed scope of authority. It is a choice to reduce yourself, the staff, the entire organization to a bureaucracy that is delivering on the narrow guidelines of a policy instead of broadly considering what it means to be protagonists of the public. I deeply believe in strong technical and critical analysis of a wide array of things when making decisions. I believe that expert knowledge is a critical thing when we think about planning out the energy system and making the non-intuitive decisions that are required to plan it well. And I believe that the MPSC can be more than a rubber stamp on the current balance of power and could come to see itself as a protagonist of the public, using all of the technical expertise at its capacity to actually advance those things. You are not like merely administrators, you are the administrators of decisions that mean life and death for the public and for the communities that you serve. Public deserves administrators who are going to make every decision with the full scope of not just the narrow circumscribed, what can you technically do and not do in an ex parte approval in a just and reasonable standard that is famously actually quite broad and open to your interpretation, right? I think you have to look at this decision and ask if you have made a decision that is taking us on the right course of history for the public or not, and consider what it would mean to have a regulatory agency that in fact sees itself as trying to serve the public in the long term, in the long arc of this critical historical moment for the future of the energy system that we're going to have or not have in the era of climate change. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Are you Eric H?
No, this is Hunter Whitehill. Sorry about that.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Whitehill.
Thank you. Well, when I first heard about this issue of an ex parte case, it seemed like DTE was trying to get a quick approval for something that didn't get full public scrutiny. I assumed as a 3-person commission appointed by the governor who has publicly supported this project that you would fall in line and grant them their approval. But this commission set up a public hearing on December 3rd, and you did not make a decision by the hard deadline of December 5th given to you by DTE and their companies that are supporting this project. I felt like maybe I had a mistake in judging you guys, and I felt like maybe the commission was going to do its job in serving the public. And I felt hope that you would surprise me and uphold the interests of the public and ultimately make this a contested case. However, I'm disappointed to find out that my initial inclination was in fact true. You mentioned previous cases were granted ex parte approval, but I question if those cases have ever had a motion or petitions from the Attorney General, the Association of Business Advocating Tariff Equity, Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association, Environmental Law and Policy Center, and the Michigan Environmental Council. Now we have established a precedent for all future data center proposals to have an ex parte approval as well. And I think it's really a sad day for Michigan and the country abroad. And although I thought this commission was going to have give me some hope, it's sad to know that we're just another cog in the system.
Thank you, Mr. Whitehill. I have Eric H. and then Ayat Al.
Hello. I guess, hi. Thanks for taking public comment for this long. I definitely didn't think I'd have an opportunity to speak. As I opened my DTE bill this morning and found $150 worth of fixed charges that were beyond my control, increasing my bill to over $500, I was just reminded how a company that strives for profit and to serve shareholders feels unfair as a customer beholden to use them as a monopoly. That said, I do recognize in my field that I'm an expert and that in your field, you're the experts. And while I do feel that you have put the cart, I guess, ostensibly miles in front of the horse by approving this only to have the caveats come after the fact, I just wanted to say thank you for listening to public comment, and I hope that the choices you have made are in fact in our best interest, as you have claimed that they are, and I hope that we can all look back on today and some of us can realize that we were wrong on things that we're scared about, and that you guys can look back and know that you were right about making a correct choice. And I hope we can all be held accountable for our actions in the future. But thank you for your time, and I hope you have a good day.
Thank you, Eric. Up next, we have Ayat Al-Tamimi, and then we'll try one last time for the person with 3408.
Hello. Like many people have spoken before me, I'm going to echo how disappointed and disgusted I am in the decision that has been made today. You are a public service commission. You have not served the public. You have served corporate powers. And what I can only imagine are your own political interests. And I hope that whatever cut of the money you've made from this deal, whatever political clout you think you're going to gain from this, is worth it for you. I hope that is what helps you sleep at night, tonight, and every single night after today, that we as the community live through the consequences of this data center. It's not just Saline. It's not just Ypsilanti. It's not just Ann Arbor. This is affecting the entire state and the entire nation. And I hope that whatever clout, whatever money, whatever part of the NDAs and secret deals you all are a part of, that it is enough to help your children and your 7 generations have clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, to be able to keep their homes warm in these cold Michigan winters. Because the goal is always has been and always will be to turn our beautiful, beautiful land into some cyberpunk dystopian nonsense for the sake of war, for the sake of surveillance, for the sake of stealing data and privacy. So I truly hope that whatever you have gained through this is enough for you to be able to sleep at night, because you have let down communities across the whole state of Michigan, the whole nation, and quite frankly, the whole world, because AI is a planetary issue, and because we, as the state of Michigan, provide 21% of the world's clean drinking water. I know you like to think that's not part of your jurisdiction, but that is part of your humanity. You are 70% water. And so I need you to think about that at night. That's all I frankly have to say. I just genuinely cannot believe that this is a conversation we're having, even though I should not be surprised.
Thank you. And we'll try one more time for the phone number that ends in 3408. Okay. We'll wrap up public comment at this point. Please note that the public may continue to submit comments to the commissioners anytime via email at lara-mpsc-commissioners@michigan.gov. Again, that's lara-mpsc-commissioners@michigan.gov. And again, that is included in the meeting notice for today's meeting as well. Any final announcements before we wrap up today? Well, that will conclude today's meeting. This is the last regular commission meeting for 2025. The The first regular commission meeting for 2026 is scheduled for Thursday, January 15th, 2026 at 1:00 p.m. At that meeting, we will announce the complete list of regular commission meetings for 2026, as we typically do. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn today's meeting.
I second the motion.
We'll now have a vote on the motion to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.